I guess, first things first, you've been a Magic player for a very long time.
Yeah.
How much would you say the game plays a role in your life now, in the modern world?
It used to be a huge role. Now, it's very much just something that I have sort of on the side that I can do when I want to. So, it's good to have, like, this great group of friends. I have, you know, a place to go, hang out, game. I have some, like, I hang out with BDM all the time, Steve Sadin, yeah, and I do like to play. I do like to try out sets. Sets I like to draft a lot, and that's really easy for me to do where I am. But, you know, it's no longer that important. I write very occasionally at best, but I still, I mean, it's shaped my life in so many ways. But it's mostly in the past at this point. I mean, I'm here, and I tried to do a lot of work, and I got what I thought was a really good constructed deck. But somehow every time there was a draft, I couldn't quite make it. It's what economists call revealed preferences.
Sure.
I always chose something else. And I mean, I just have to acknowledge that, you know, I'm in a different place now. But I came here to have fun, to chat with people, you know, to enjoy, to reconnect, not to try and win. And I wouldn't show up and not try and win on top of it, but, like, this is not a failure. You know, this is a failure to win, but it's not like I'm sorry I came or anything. I'm happy I came.
Sure.
Yeah.
Would you say that as a hobby, going forward, now that you're queued for every Pro Tour...
Which is awesome, by the way.
How many Pro Tours would you estimate that you expect to attend each year? Or events in general, I
would say it's so schedule dependent. Like, I went to Grand Prix Boston because my computer broke. Like, no kidding, day before. And I realized I can do no work this weekend. There's a Grand Prix in Boston. Nice. And I showed up. It was M10 limited, so I didn't actually have to do any prep work. And I made day 2, and I made top 32, I think, and I had a lot of fun. So that was great. And, you know, Hollywood was a lot of fun. And you could hear, a lot depends on the format and how I'm feeling about it and how much free time I have. I feel that Wizards has really done a great disservice to people like me by splitting the Pro Tours into dual formats.
You mean identifying more as a constructed guy than a limited guy, you mean?
Not even. I was very vocal about the fact that there were several Pro Tours in the past 2 years I would have gone to if they were either format that I didn't go to because they were both. The problem being, you have to spare so much time, because if I were not drafting the set on a regular basis, and I realize it's only a problem for some old-timers, basically, but if you're not drafting the set regularly, then you have to actively learn to draft to have any real chance to do well. But then you have to also do constructed, and the combination of that is really disruptive, because it takes a lot of time. And, you know, I want to come, I want to have fun, I want to hang out. Zendikar, I got really lucky because Zendikar is basically just Magic and limited. You know, it's fast, but it's just Magic. So I could sit down. That was my World Wake pre-release I just played. I 2-1'd. I thought I had a good deck. You know, I thought I did reasonably well in the draft. I was pressed for time on the World Wake picks, but otherwise I was fine.
Sure.
So.
Do you feel that availability of Magic Online and sort of Magic 24 hours a day makes up the difference for some of those old-timers being able to play more frequently, or do you feel that it still is a challenge?
It definitely helps, but you then schedule things like this tournament where you don't use it because it's too late, right? If it was an established thing, it would be much easier. I mean, I personally have not used Moto in a while because, to me, Moto does not give me the experience that I want right now in Magic. It's great for what it is, and it's great for learning, and it's great for just someone who just wants to game and game and game and game. And it's great for someone who just, you know, doesn't have anyone local, but with a great group next door for drafts, there's no reason for me to use Moto, basically, because, you know, Magic is a social game. And Magic is much better when you have the guy across from you, and you're joking around, you're having fun. And half of the reason I go to the drafts is to hang out with people rather than to play. And between all the waiting and all the technical glitches and all the things that can go wrong, Moto doesn't appeal to me right now. I mean, I used to spend endless hours all the time on Moto, and it was a lot of fun. But again, it's just not where I am anymore. Moto's biggest problem for me, where I am now, is it requires active attention with a lot of downtime. And the combination of that makes it very hard to get anything else done. because you never know when the next round's going to start. You never know how long something's going to happen. And so you end up not spending that much time playing, but a lot of time when you can't really go anywhere. And so it can be problematic. I mean, the same is true in a Magic tournament, but I spend this time chatting with people.
Sure.
Yeah,
so I want to ask you one more question about your Pro Tour career before we shift to talking about your book. And that is, you're one of the early members of a Pro Tour Hall of Fame class.
Yes.
How did you feel receiving that honor, and what did it mean to you to be selected for that process?
It meant that sort of everyone was acknowledging that I was one of the great ones, that I had really earned this honor, and that but mostly it just meant I could show up for free at all times and just play, because I wanted to come back, but qualifying is very time intensive, and there was no way I could have come back without the slots. So, I mean, that first tournament I was given back, there's that moment of, oh my God, I'm in the Hall of Fame. And it was also a really tough class. A lot of people told me that I was being silly to consider that I might not make it, but I really thought, there's 7 people here and we all deserve this, and there's no telling which 5 are going to make it. And I did make it. I felt really good, especially to make it that year when there's so much tough competition. But I moved rapidly on to, okay, now we're playing. I can't not play. It's in New York City. I'm going to the Hall. And so rapidly, I got to find a good standard deck. I got to find a legacy deck. And I actually built, together with my locals, I built 2 decks I'm pretty proud of for that tournament. And that was, what it meant was that I was back. Not necessarily every time, but I was back. And it's also the only way you can do what I'm doing right now, which is to show up 1 time in 4. Right? It's like that to maintain a high rating at all times. And that precludes your ability to actually participate when you want to. So that's really terrible.
Sure. Okay, well, let's talk about the book, My Files.
Yep.
It is now available for public consumption, yes?
Yes.
At top8games.com. Tell us a little bit about how that project sort of came into being.
Yeah. Well, Flores did the first book, Decade, and they gave me a copy of Decade, and after it came out, they asked me if I was interested in doing something similar, and I immediately said yes. And in fact, the origin of this came a long time ago in the sense that I always knew this might happen. And so I specifically negotiated in all of my contracts, after a while, that I had the non-internet rights to everything, so that it wouldn't have to be negotiated. I did it with the sideboard early on. I did it with the dojo. I did it with Mind Ripper. And I specifically, Brainburst was the tough one, because, Chetty is the kind of guy who wants everything out of a contract he can get. Let's just put it that way. And therefore, I had to make an issue of it. But at the same time, I got what I wanted, because it wasn't important to him and it was important to me. Because I wanted to make sure that if I wanted this book to happen, I could make it happen. If EDM came and said, we can make this happen, then I was immediately, of course, I want to make this happen. And so it was simply a matter of getting the materials together, getting the right form, getting the extra material done, just going through the logistics of it and making it happen. And that took a long time. But we got there. And now I have a book. And I can look at this volume and say, that's my book. And I can read it also and really take a trip back in time and really look back. And I see such different things now when I read my stuff again than I saw back then. And the biggest thing I see when I look back is just, you can see someone learning how to write and learning how to play together. And I look back at the early stuff that I wrote, and I'm just like, I can't believe someone put that up like that. Is nobody correcting this guy? But I really like the decision we made to not fix stupid mistakes, because there's nowhere that stops. Am I going to put out the book of the articles I would have written? That's just silly.